Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Copeland Coins live stream. I'm Caleb, and today we are talking all about, is your magic age appropriate for you and your audiences, and how to age your magic along with you. So to talk with us about that today is Mr. Jeff Copeland. What's up, Jeff?
What'd you say?
I don't
I can't hear you. Said my magic was old.
I wanted to be careful with this topic because I want to start off right off by saying we're not saying anything. You're never too old for magic. We're not trying to age anybody out of magic, discriminate against anybody. Everybody's welcome in magic. We just want to talk about the material that we have and how well that is fitting our character and our age of both ourselves and our audiences and our situation. And that's a very
Absolutely,
important topic, right?
absolutely. Because if anybody's old in magic, it's this guy right here. All right. So let's be up front. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we don't want to say anything there. We're not talking about anything inappropriate. We're actually talking about like what do you say, like a fine wine getting better with age. Now Caleb froze on me. You got that look looks good on you, Caleb. Nice frozen. We just like I'm gonna take a screenshot of that right there. Let's see. Let me get you, Caleb, there. Yeah, we'll share that later. Maybe Caleb will be back with us in a moment. And anyways, we are talking live on the air with a frozen moderator, and hopefully the viewers aren't frozen there. But we're talking about how as you get older, as you change, and every day we're getting a little bit older. Every day we're changing, we're progressing, we're going a step further. Our magic's going to change, right? Our personality's going to change. We're all evolving. We're constantly becoming somebody different than we were, and hopefully we're moving in the right direction, right? Because there is a place where it's easy to be stagnant, particularly right now, right? Summertime for me, it's hot outside. It's like 100 degrees out there. Don't feel like doing anything. It just feel like I'm just baking at any given moment. I don't feel like I have the energy to progress forward, but we're always moving. We're always doing something. I've heard a good quote from Alice in Wonderland of all things, and I think it was the caterpillar, but I'm going to butcher the quote. But he talked about, if you want to stay in the same place, you're going to have to run as fast as possible. Like, because the only way to stay in the same exact spot is to constantly be working, because you're going to have to run to stay in that same exact spot, because everything is always changing around you. Just like I'm talking about the weather. Well, in 10, 20 minutes from now, it might be hotter, it might be colder. By the time of the evening, it will definitely be a little bit cooler. Everything is always changing, always evolving, always moving in a different direction. And so we're wanting to talk about that with our magic, and realize that as we get older, we have the opportunity to get better. And hopefully, as we get older, we're getting better. So Caleb, welcome back. How's it going there?
My computer's so old, I think it needs to age well with magic as well. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Well, I was just kind of setting things up and talking about like we're all changing and whatnot. So I thought let's go ahead and get in what's we've got. We don't have enough time to cover all the points on this topic, and this is definitely could be months long to talk about the live stream. But we came up with 3 ideas that we want to talk about. The 3 E's. 3 E's, is that right? That should change as you get older with your magic, as you I'm trying to think of the word, as you age with beauty, like a good wine or a good classic rock album or something like that.
Of course. So the first E is energy.
Ooh,
What do we mean about
energy.
energy, Jeff?
That means as you get older, you should constantly be filling up with more and more energy and bouncing off the walls and eating more sugar. As you get older, you have more energy, right, Caleb?
I know a few people like that in magic. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. For some people, that is the right case. Some people do get more expressive and more energetic, and then other people do the opposite. As you get a little bit older, I just talked about that. Like the heat affects me more now. For you guys that don't know, I just turned 41 this month, and no, right?
Just kidding.
Right?
Just kidding.
I'm officially in my 40s, and that affects the way I play. I still want to play. I still think play is essential to life, but that affects the way I play. I have to be careful when I'm out on the baseball field with the kids, realizing that I got to stretch, or I could tear something. And Same thing with my magic, right? With my hands. Sometimes you guys have shared with you guys maybe a year or two ago that I had surgery on this thumb, and I got to stretch the thumb. I got to warm it up before I do some of my certain sleights. Otherwise, the coin won't slide up to the fingertips the way it used to. The energy changes with a performance. That's what I'm trying to say.
The energy of the actual performance, you mean? So, like, not only due to sometimes physical energy changing, but also you're meaning to make the performance fit the energy that the audience is gonna expect, like, they're not expecting you to be bouncing off the walls and going, like, crazy and having that may fit certain performers, but we're talking more of taking that into consideration and thinking about, "How do I make this age well with me?" Right?
Yeah, age well with you, and that's the key right there. Because I'm not being clear. I've seen guys that they are still performing with the same exact energy that they did maybe in their teens or their 20s, right? And now they're 40 or 50. And what happens is that's just such a radical departure of the person they've evolved into, their magical character, their magical persona, their presentation. It didn't evolve properly the way they evolved as human being, if that makes sense.
Mm. And
So, yeah.
the thing is that this is, of course, in most of our live stream topics, unless we're talking like, technical slides and certain magic theories and things, most of this is all relative to the performer, right? There are going to be some guys that can definitely pull that off.
Absolutely.
Um, one example I'd like to chat about because I haven't seen him very recently, but David Williamson
Mhm.
is a he's always been like high, high, high energy, and he's getting
Yeah.
older now. Is he still doing the same kind of stuff? I haven't seen him recently.
Let's see. Last time I ran into him was the Magi Fest a year or two ago. It wasn't last year, maybe 2 years ago, I think. And you know what? His personality off stage is he's big. He's a big man. He's good night. He feels like he's 7 foot tall, but
Yeah.
he's a larger than life personality. So even when he's low key, he's still a notch or two above everybody else. So for him on stage, like it just is because it's him, right? He's not faking that. It's who he comes across. At least anytime he's out in public. I don't know what he's like at home watching TV or sitting with his wife in the evenings. I don't know, but when he's out and about, he's expressive, and so it fits him. And even with that, like he will make jokes and he will acknowledge his age, and so it becomes appropriate for who he is. And it takes practice, right, to be able to identify that. Because if a grown man starts acting exactly like a little child when he starts performing magic, that probably doesn't fit his character. However, if he's a grown man that acknowledges he's acting with childlike wonder and he's aware of himself, he's self-aware that he's acting this way, it might work. Does that make sense? Like, it's that self-aware piece, that
Yeah,
confidence piece,
for
versus the
sure.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm still acting like a child, even though I'm 41 years old. I don't know why, but I'm still doing it. That's the difference. And the
And we were
audience picks up on that.
and we were talking about that earlier. Like this is an extreme example because we're not all gonna fit this. But imagine we were 85 years old
Okay.
and and wanted to do a magic show about how we perform magic for our grandchildren. And it's like,
Yeah, we were talking about
okay,
that.
that would definitely fit because you gotta be more animated and like, excited using colorful props and things like that for like your little grandchildren. If that's what you want to do, that kind of fits the idea. So I think what we're trying to get at here is just this idea of examining where our material is. Does it still fit who I am as a person? I don't have to still be the exact same I was back then just because that worked or because that's comfortable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I will acknowledge, like, if I'm performing for kids, I always want to acknowledge the adults in the room. I always want to acknowledge and give them energy as well. Let them be in on it and let them, the older I get, the more I want to share my perspective as a magician with the adults in the audience. That's what I want to gift because it's just too cool to see these kids' reactions if I'm performing something, so much so that I am willing to give away secrets. I'm willing to give away some of the mystery because I want to create the beauty, if that makes sense. And I know that may not fit for everybody, but in a kids magic show, I will, if I'm pulling out coins from behind a kid's ear, I just flash something I'm working on, or you got to come back for the coin jam tonight to know what this is. But
That's a
3D
secret thing.
printer working here. So that's a quick little plug here. Tonight we got the Coin Jam with Rooster, and we've got some great little ideas here. Let me pick up a coin box here. I can flash that all day long.
Yeah, quick
Anyway,
quick thing on that, just a quick since we have that said, tonight is the Coin Gym. If you've not picked up your ticket, grab that here. The thing
this is
that
me running
Jeff
to the
just
website.
accidentally flashed was a 3D printed prop that we're gonna be talking about tonight as a part of
All
some of
dirty
the
people.
crazy ideas we have with the coin box. So you're gonna wanna check that out. I'll put that in the comments as well. But anyway, back to what you were saying on energy.
I've run over to our webpage so I can purchase a ticket. All right, there we go. There's the link there. Yeah, catch out that link there in the gym. So what was I saying? I'm
Well, I think
old.
it's really interesting. You mentioned something that I think was really interesting too, is all of these things that we're going to talk about today, the three main topics here, one being energy, is also applicable to the audience. So,
Yes.
like, you're thinking not only like, does the material and does the magic and my persona fit me as a person, but also does this fit with the audience? And I think you make a really good point about when you said, do you mean kids shows or do you mean family shows?
Well, I was just talking about usually, I mean, if I'm performing any kind of kids show, and that was like one of the more recent shows I did, um, there's always going to be adults in the audience, right?
Mhm.
And so what clued me on that early was the adults were the people that were paying me to be there, so I better entertain them.
Okay.
The adults are the ones that are going to hire me again, so I better entertain everybody. The kids are the ones that are going to request me. The adults, if they're not the decision makers, they will request the decision makers to bring me back, that kind of stuff. So you better entertain everybody. And so what I was just trying to say there is the energy has to be given to everybody in the audience. I think from my perspective, if you just were to focus on the kids or just focus on the adults and not acknowledge there are kids in the room, if your material doesn't acknowledge those kids in the room and has something for them, you're going to miss a huge opportunity. Yeah, so that's maybe a tangent there, but just that energy
No,
is for everybody.
there's so many thoughts and theories from readings that I've read about magic that are coming into my head in this moment about what you're saying. Acknowledging things in the room is something so important to the consummate professional. Like if somebody's cell phone goes off, you don't just pretend like it didn't exist, or if you
No,
drop something, you know what I mean? Like, how are you going to? And maybe you don't acknowledge it because your character's just going to pick it up with confidence, but maybe you acknowledge it, and make it a thing. Being aware of being in the moment with these people is
yeah,
another part of this. Like, how is their energy? How is my energy? How can I make this, as Divernon said, natural to me in this environment, right?
yeah, I love it. I mean, it's got to be sad because you're giving away energy, and the audience is giving away energy too. And so, if those two things don't come together in a live show, you're missing out on so much. I mean, if you don't turn it into some kind of a dance where it's a give and take, where you're working together, and you can get all the way to the Vegas level shows where those guys are so polished, it's just naturally happening. They're probably not even thinking about it after 2,000 shows. But for most of us folks, that everyday performers, we're coming in and out of different environments. If you're not doing that give and take, if you're not interacting with your audience and you're not exchanging energy with one another, you're missing out on something. And I would say, as a younger performer, you're too young. Typically, most people to quite grasp that. You can feel it, but and at the very beginning, the energy, the excitement is the feedback. What maybe it triggers people to be excited, even addicted to magic, right? But as you get older, if you don't remember to tune into that energy back and forth, your character doesn't evolve in that. You're going to miss out on something. And that's probably enough on that topic.
Amazing, amazing. I want to, before we jump on to the next piece of this, I want to say hi to some of our viewers today that have been
Oh,
putting comments in here. Hi, Don. Good to see you. This is, I haven't seen Don on here before. He says, I'm 73 and an avid amateur for over 60 years. This topic is something I never really thought about. Thanks for covering it. No problem, Don. We're here for you. This, believe it or not, was actually a viewer submitted topic from a viewer, Carlos,
yeah.
who emailed us and submitted a topic. So if you have a topic for future episodes, submit your topic to team@copelandcoins.com. And we are very excited to cover those and help you guys out. So thanks for being
Yeah.
here, Don. Matthew says he just had his oldest birthday yet. Good to see you, Matthew. Spencer, good to see you, Spencer. This is a new face here, I think. I still do tricks with a pocket watch and a gentleman's handkerchief. Very cool.
I think that's great. Yeah.
There's a lot of cool things with how props, like, from what time period props come with as well to
Yeah.
kind of tell the story without having to even say anything, right?
I'm a big fan of anything that people don't see every day, anything interesting that the prop helps builds the interest from the moment it comes out, more power.
That's why we got the Viajero and the Coinbox wallet, right? Because they
Absolutely.
have
Yeah.
that, like, handcrafted antique what is that kind of feel? And
What
then,
is
like,
this? What
you're
is
in
it?
the
Open
magic.
up. And then you got coins.
There you go. Matthew says he will be there tonight, referring to the
Oh,
Coinbox Jam. Yes, Michael says he has his
jam.
ticket. Can't wait. You guys need to get your tickets. Let's go
It's a
back
great value
to
price, great value
for
price.
sure, for sure. Right now they're $15 for that jam.
$15.
And this is my buddy Chris. He's coming tonight to the thing. He says at the Renaissance Festival when he's performing, a plane flies over. He says, "Look, a dragon."
That's great.
That's fantastic. Be
There you
natural
go.
to the environment, right?
Absolutely.
Uh,
Environment.
for sure. Say hi to Sean here. Good to see you. Let me one more comment here. This is a topic I always think about since I've been performing for many decades. I'm always looking at my magic to keep it fresh. It drives my wife nuts. Maybe the bank account sometimes, but there are ways, and hopefully we are talking about some of them today. Ways to look at your current material as well and see how that can adapt and what
Yeah.
pieces you may need to add. So the next topic on this, Jeff, we spoke about was experience. Second
Experience.
E.
The second E was experience. Yeah. So I mean, it goes into the energy and some of the stuff we're talking about. Like when you go out and perform every day, you get the opportunity to perform, whether you choose to accept it or not. Just about now that things are back open and we can get out. Um, you got to have some kind of mental log or a journal or some way of keeping track of the experiences you've had, so you don't repeat the mistakes, or you repeat the mistakes that were good mistakes. You're like learning, constantly learning. And so when we're talking about we're aging, um, it, every show should build on the one before, right? Your experience should clue you in to how to make things better, right? That's what we think experience means.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I think as you do more performing for more people, obviously everything is an experience that you can use for your mental log. Um, but it shows when you approach a group and you treat them we're going to go back to the age thing, age appropriately,
Mhm.
because I think some performers unfortunately fall into the trap of, well, I got to treat everybody like we're kids because it's all about wonder. And Paul Harris said that that pure form of wonder, like in his Art of Astonishment, he had that quote. I don't know if he necessarily meant to treat everyone like a child, just
Yeah.
because we all experience childlike wonder doesn't mean you have to treat everyone like a child necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, so that's important.
No, I think, yeah. And I think experience and going out there and again, we talk about all the time, making those mistakes and learning from them. And I think that's it's part of it. And it's the work of implementing things, right? Because in my own personal life, outside of magic, like how often do I listen to a podcast and I learn a good tip? But then it's that extra effort of putting it into practice, that the extra effort of getting that last rep in at the gym or whatever. It's hard sometimes, right? It's hard to initially do it, but if you are mindful about it, and mindful is one of the key words probably the last 2 years, right? It's on my watch, it's on my phone, it's everywhere, but it's there for a reason, because it's so easy to be distracted and forget about the things you've learned. And so it may be when you're older, you start. We talk a lot about we talked about like performance anxiety and stuff on here. Lots of times you go back and watch old episodes, and just being aware of the energy that you're feeling before you go and perform or before you go talk to somebody, and checking that in. And that's like what previous experience allows you, and that's the beauty of getting older. And so I don't know. A lot of people are always trying to be younger right now. I just want to be 41. I want to be right where I'm at, because this is a cool time. Like it's neat to have this experience, to have this understanding of the past successes and failures and what it's taught me. And so being able to implement that and having right now having the health to be able to do that, it's a beautiful thing. So I just encourage you to be aware, be mindful of your experiences and implement those changes. Do what it takes. So that means more practice before you go out, or that means more dialogue, more scripting, or having a pre-game plan right before you go on. That stuff's important.
Yeah, and if we're talking about some of the, physical things that come along with age, that's, some of the episodes we've talked about before, like certain hand lotions and things like that, like being aware of the tactileness for my coin magic and which coins I'm using for certain things like that, or important considerations just to make everything as natural as possible for the situation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, I want to point out I found a quote and I pulled it up.
Oh,
I found it the other day. This is not a magic quote, but I think it fits really well here. It's actually from Gwen Stefani, and it says, "Act as young as you feel. You're not getting older. You're getting more entitled to be your fabulous self."
okay, I like that.
And I thought that was interesting. Act as young as you feel. So it doesn't necessarily. We're not necessarily saying you have to, be a curmudgeon, right? It's
No,
just however you feel and what you wanna do, be natural to you and don't have to feel like you have to put on some type of air.
that's it right there. Don't feel like you have to, right? Because
Mhm.
maybe the who you are is the best who you are, and maybe it's not. Maybe you need to be working on some stuff and own that. That's okay. Like, own it.
Oh, yeah, we're all working on stuff,
Yeah,
all
we're
sorts of
all
stuff.
working on it. I am the chief person of working on it.
Spencer says here, he says, I think I can get a vibe. I think that I can get a vibe of when a spectator is really apathetic or left brained and how to present to them without sounding pretentious or fantastical. So that's interesting. So maybe like
Scary.
those more analytical spectators and how to relate to them. That's a very important quality as well, relating to the
Yeah,
audience.
that's exactly it. That's picking up on the energy somebody's giving you, and you
Mhm.
you you do that. It seems like it may only take a couple times. Really, I mean, our brains are fantastically wired. Like to just start picking up on that kind of stuff. So,
Mhm. And
you know,
I'll give a quick performance example. When I was performing recently, there's a trick I've always done where a playing card is changing in the spectator's hands. It's a strong effect, but I used to like maybe kind of play it up like I do some kind of a flick of the deck away from the hand, and I go, did you feel that? Did you feel that? Oh man, maybe it changed the card, and then we turn it over, and the card changed. Well, recently I started changing that to where I flick it, and I flick the deck as if it did something. I go, did you feel that? And they go, no, and I go, that shouldn't do anything, right? But maybe. And now they're with me, like, now they smile and they go, and then they turn the card
yeah,
over and it changed and they react, right? So, I'm not necessarily saying, "I want you to pretend like we're kids." It's just like, there's this kind of fun banter of like, "Well, what does that mean? I don't know. Maybe it
yeah.
did something." Right?
No, I think what you've done is you broke down the barrier. You created a rapport, and you've let people in on that. You're not taking yourself too seriously, but once you allow people to that's it's that willingness, the suspension of belief. When you get them to that point where they can be disarmed and they're not going to challenge you, like not going to be like, oh, you can't fool me, Mr. Magician. Like we've talked about that. That's where you start getting into really beautiful territory.
Of
So,
course, of
yeah,
course, of
you're
course.
right on.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so the last,
Last
topic,
E.
the last E is for effects. Effects.
Ooh.
What do you wanna say about this specifically,
So
Jeff?
that's why I think this is really well good. We were trying to pare it down to a live stream here, and Caleb threw
Mhm,
in the E of effects, and I think this is a good throw in. That I think as you get older, you learn to be smarter about the effects, right? And we try to do some of that for you at copelandcoins.com, where we're pretty particular about what we release, right? We're very particular, and we'll be sharing, I guess, next week on the live stream. I think is the plan about some of the effects that happened over the last 12 months for us. But we want to choose things out of wisdom and out of experience that we know work and that we can build on. And when you're first getting into magic, when you're the young magician, if we go back to just to show kind of where we come from, if we're saying as we get older, when you and by the way, an older magician could be somebody that's a month older into magic. If you just got into magic, welcome. It could be a year older. It could be, like we've heard, 60 years older. It doesn't matter. It's all relative. Just as Gwen Stefani so brilliantly pointed out, it's all relative. We're becoming our fabulous self. You start to see what effects fit your personality, right? And that takes time. That can seriously take years. You start to learn what is right in your hands, what size coins are right for you, those kind of things. And so you start selecting the effects that fit your personality more. As you slowly learn, am I somebody that wants to work hard at the sleight of hand, or am I somebody that wants to work hard at the audience, or can I do both? And is that possible? And particularly if you see my creations, I'm one of the kind of people that wants to try really hard to do both. Because I am inspired by guys like David Williamson, who did both. Who did ridiculously hard sleight of hand and entertained the audience at the same time. And so you want to choose your effects and start choosing the effects that are going to impact your audience with the right energy and the way that you want to, the way that you're learning, because your experience has taught you what works for you.
Of course, of course. No, that's good. And I think this kind of goes back as well. Another idea on this is that point of having a justification for what you have, that what you're doing magic with, right? And it doesn't have to be said necessarily, but sometimes just an implicit justification, like, oh, it makes sense that this guy is carrying around a pocket watch, like somebody mentioned earlier, or it makes sense that like Jeff was telling me, we were talking before this, and he was saying that you might not, like maybe in a restaurant scenario, you might not want to be performing at a restaurant table and pull out like a parasol. You're like doing multiplying like umbrellas and stuff. It's like, why is this?
Yeah.
But in the right scenario, that could make perfect sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So we're
if
talking
it
about
fits your
applying that.
culture and it's normal to have a parasol at the right time, or if you're performing for kids, I happen to know kids love umbrellas, like absolutely love them. That might be the best thing to pull out. But if you're at a business meeting or tableside, pulling out the parasol is probably the wrong effect.
Right.
And wisdom, experience, and the energy in the room can all lead you to know that that was not the right choice, or it was the right choice.
And that's why you have to be careful too. There's so much. I love talking about topics like this because it's like there's so many things that can go into it. But it's like, for example, the thing that came to mind was I can imagine it would be out of place to show up at with a company that's having like a little associate dinner or a little cocktail reception or something and start doing like mouth coils. Like it would just be, it's kind of germy, like it doesn't fit the aesthetic of the environment. However, showing up with a deck of cards at first might seem like, oh, yeah, that's so cliche. But that's why it works, I think, because they expect a magician to have a deck of cards, and it's
Yeah,
it's not super uncommon prop, or
I know.
coins, or vice versa, and then you can go into the next thing from there. Start with your cards, go to coins, start with your coins, go to cards, whatever you're doing. Those types of things that you're carrying in your pockets is not, super out of place as maybe swallowing a balloon would be or something, that you wouldn't
Yeah,
do in like a corporate and a corporate cocktail environment, maybe. You might, depending on the character, but,
yeah, makes sense. Love it.
so much interesting stuff.
Boom.
Well, that about wraps it up for today. Thank you guys for joining us. One more time, just want to mention tonight is the Coin Jam, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I think we're still in East EDT or Eastern Standard Time, whatever
Yeah,
time of year we're in, Eastern Time. Go here to the link. I put that link in the comments. Purchase your ticket and join us. You also get a recording of it with the live ticket, and
yeah.
we will see you for the jam
We'd love
tonight
to
with
have you
Rooster.
live. Yeah. If you're watching this late, it will be available on our website for sale still. And I promise you, there are some ideas in there. Rooster is a brilliant guy, and he's got me thinking. We have some great ideas that I don't think you'll have ever heard anywhere about using a coin box. And I am really excited about where this is going to go when we put some minds together and start brainstorming, jamming. And yeah, so see you there.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys soon.